This dirt bike ride is from March of 21, where Mike and Sean and James, as well as Bob and Christian and I went up and put, I think, about 70 miles on dirt bikes. Here's James hot dogging around in his KTM. We stopped in Keyesville and geared up and went along the trail, which kind of parallels the 178 highway that goes up the Kern River Canyon from Bakersfield area to Lake Isabella, and then got on the single track that kind of runs just above that highway. This is that single track. Just a lot of fun. This is up at maybe 4,000 feet, and there's James. And it goes up, continues to climb in elevation, but the real treat here is along these narrow single track. You can see the highway in some of the shots below. Right there, you see the river and the road. And a little tricky in some areas, a little soft in some corners. I actually got off in some soft stuff around a sharp corner, and really that's not a good idea because you have to lift the bike out. If you try to keep going, it's just going to slide down the hill. So I'm getting better at this as I go. I've been on this trail, I think, 3 times now, but it's just a blast with these beautiful rocks and the lower. This is the Greenhorn Mountains above Lake Isabella. So there's that is Christian. Christian's got the red and white Beta. James on the orange and white KTM. There's Christian in front of me. Mike's got his yellow and white DRZ 400. There's Sean, and just exited the picture. He's on his darker color DRZ. And who did I leave out? I think that was it. So this is all single track with just a little bit of water, a couple water crossings, and we do a couple breaks for lunch. And here's the gang. There's Mike with the yellow. That's my blue and white DRZ. A lot of rock, loose rock, dirt transitions here. Nice dry conditions, a little dusty on this day. And it's one of the few water crossings coming up. I'm still learning how to do this. We're getting more momentum, but I'm getting better at it. The first couple times on this trail, I got very stuck in that little creek. We went up to an area that now is consumed by fire. The French fire is burning right now as I narrate this. We're in late 2021, and this area just to the north of where we're riding in this video burned. So not this particular section, but later in the video as we get up in the forest, all of that is burned. So it's really a shame, and we'll have to see how that trail comes back together. You heard my engine rev up there. I missed a shift. It's going up that hill in second gear. I should have just kept my momentum, but I tried the downshift and I missed it and immediately stopped. This section of trail, you want to really keep your momentum up. You go too slow on this stuff, your wheel gets bounced around and it gets more scary. But if you just keep rolling through this, the bike can easily roll over all this stuff. The key is just keep moving. Here we're crossing the Jeep trail where we sometimes park and go up this fire road. It's crossing over here. Occasionally you see my GPS. I track speed, distance for the trip. You can see elevation on here. We get up to maybe 7,000 feet maybe. Here's some more water. So later on in the video you'll see that snow as we get up in the higher elevation. So this trip was really fun because we end up with fire roads, this awesome single track, get some ATV type trails a little bit later, then some fire roads and snow. And at the end of the video my battery died. It didn't have enough with me, and the last probably quarter of the trip I didn't record, which was a really interesting steep downhill on a trail called Dutch Flat. Here's the group: Mike and Bob on the right, Sean, James. There's Bob right in front of me. Bob's on a Honda. Little water crossing here. They're always fun just to splash through, and a little bit of mud here and there. It's certainly not a muddy day. It's generally just really dry and dusty. This is just from some late snow belt coming off the top of the hills. big challenge on this day, once we got up in this higher elevation, there were trees down everywhere, and they hadn't been maintained in terms of the trail. So every time we came around a corner, we were dealing with trees. Like, just look at this picture, you see them just everywhere, and we had to go over a bunch. Bob actually dropped his bike on that one and kind of jacked up his ankle. But you'll see coming up here just trees everywhere. So this became quite a burden. And it was fairly hot this day. It was, I don't know, up in the 80s, I think. So you're all geared up, and even though we have snow on the ground, when you're working the bike under and over trees, it does get quite exhausting. James taking some pictures. We had to turn around here. You see there's about 8 inches of snow on the ground. No problem there until we get packed down. So here's Bob in front of me trying to navigate that. It's quite slippery on the ice. This tree we had to go down and around and ended up scouting. Here's coming up the other side of that loose soil. There's Mike coming up. And that's Christian on his Beta. So I like riding in this snow unless it's packed down like this and it gets a little icy and slippery. So we ended up going fairly slowly through some of this. I think if you were, here's lunch by the way, in a nice clearing. If you're a little more aggressive, you can probably bonsai through this, but we were trying to take it easy so we wouldn't have any big wipeouts in this icy section, because you come around the corner and it can be very slippery. Some of the guys couldn't get up this hill.
Yeah.
Christian finally getting some traction, so I got stuck here right there, and then James tried to go around me. He got stuck, so Christian had to help us both out. There's Mike showing how to come up the hill properly with a ton more momentum. Then at the top of the hill, this is probably around 7,000 feet. This doesn't look super steep, but this is very steep coming down, basically dragging the back wheel and trying to not get going too fast. And then once again, we find big trees down. So typically there's ways around these. We carry small saws, but that's just too much work. So we're looking to try to find a path around some of these obstacles. Towards the end of the trip, we got caught in lots of water and went really slow. And then after the section I don't have on video, which is this awesome downhill, we were all pretty tired by the end of the day, wrestling the bikes around the snow and trees. Here's Mike going up to explore a way around this tree. Some of us went over it. Not a huge obstacle, but you got a lot of bushes on your right. And this particular tree we had to go under. There's James. Basically run the bike up alongside, drag it through. There's Mike coming through. The taller you are, like guys like me, like 6'4", it's just much more challenging to do this. So good to have a big crew of guys to help out. There's Mike, Sean on the right. This makes a really interesting, diverse day through all the terrain. And then we got up into a trail called, I think it's called Mud Hen, which is all these chaparral bushes. It's like a tunnel. Really cool riding. We've been up and down this trail. Just a really scenic trail. Lots of ruts to get through. As you're going uphill, it's a little more tricky, but that was no problem until we got to this. Really swampy, trees down, soft dirt. We were pretty tired by this time, and it took a lot of effort to get up this trail to the top of the ridge. All in all, probably 6 or 7 hours of riding. There, my GPS said 38 miles in. I suspect this trip was maybe 50 or 60 miles total. Guys are helping to set up some tree branches so we can get over this much bigger log and tree. But the other side of it was a creek, so it was like quicksand over there. So that's why we did all this extra work, because you couldn't just go flying over this. As your bike would go up to this axle in muck. So great ride, and always fun to get up to this area.